now like to welcome to the stage the Honourable Matthew Thistlethwaite, Australia's Assistant Minister for Defence, Assistant Minister for Veterans Affairs and Assistant Minister for the Republic, to provide an address.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Can I acknowledge that we're on the land of the Gadigal people, the traditional owners, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and thank you to ASPI for the opportunity to address you this afternoon. I want to acknowledge Justin Bassey, of course, and all the team at ASPI, and thank you for your valuable insights and input into national security and defence policy in Australia. I can tell you that in the government your views certainly are valued, and we look forward to hearing what comes of the deliberations today at your conference, and it comes at a timely opportunity, the conference theme regarding critical and emerging technology, because as we all know, the government is about to make the single biggest investment in defence capability in Australia's history through AUKUS. And an important pillar of that investment will be the defence partnerships with industry that will be undertaken to deliver the innovation necessary to manufacture the next generation of nuclear-propelled submarines. It's a massive undertaking, and we're going to need the input and the partnership of defence industry to achieve that. I've got to say, in my 10 months in this role, I've been struck by the pace of technological advancement in defence industry and capability. Whereas in the past we might have talked of the traditional land, sea and air domains, we're now discussing the cyber and space domains. We talk about communications as a new terrain rather than a tool as it was in the past. And increasingly these new domains are where Australia's democracy is going to be defended into the future. So ensuring that Australia as a nation has the capability and the frontier in those domains to maintain that capability is vitally important. And that, of course, relies on new ideas, ingenuity and innovation. So there's a discussion going on in the government at the moment about how we realise that innovation and that new technology and how we nurture that within defence industry. At a macro level, this is one of the reasons why the new government commissioned the Defence Strategic Review to undertake an assessment of the threat that Australia faces into the future, which domains those threats will be prevalent in, and how we prepare as a nation to combat and deter those threats into the future. And that's the guidance that we'll get at a macro level from the leads. And of course, you're all aware that the Defence Strategic Review has now been handed to the government. It's in the process of being declassified, and the government will respond over the course of the next month. At a micro level, we're introducing new policy to nurture some of that innovation. The Defence Industry Development Strategy is being developed at the moment with the input of defence industry by my colleague, Pat. The Innovation Hub is something that has been widely utilised by defence industry to produce new ideas and to commercialise them for use within the defence space. A couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate to visit AUKUS, a recent startup that's based in my electorate in Randwick, a partnership between this new company and the University of New South Wales, utilising a Defence Innovation Hub to realise a new reconnaissance and surveillance capability that is now being picked up by the Australian Navy. Their Blue Bottle vessel is an uncrewed vessel that relies on solar and wind and the waves' motion to propel it into the ocean. The solar panels can rotate to the direction of the sun. They can come down in high winds, and they've developed a unique fin system that basically propels the boat off the motions of the waves. And the beauty of this technology is that it can go to sea forever, and it's uncrewed, and it's proving quite valuable for the Defence Force and for our national security agencies in the reconnaissance and surveillance space. An Australian innovation developed here by veterans in partnership with an Australian educational institution that has wide export potential for the rest of the world. Last week, I was fortunate to visit Gilmore Space in Queensland and see firsthand the wonderful work that Adam Gilmore and his team, and I know Paul Scully-Power is here today. Paul showed me around last week and helped me comprehend and understand the important opportunities that exist for Australia in the space domain. And these guys, a young, agile, innovative workforce, are literally aiming for the stars. And when they see how the development of rocket and satellite technology has been done in the past in other nations, their approach is, well, how do we do it cheaper? How do we do it faster? And how do we bring Australian ingenuity and cutting-edge development to that domain? And they are achieving results, and their first launch will take place later this year, and we're all looking forward to that. The second area I wanted to talk about is ingenuity and skills. How do we nurture that future talent in Australia? And that's going to be a big challenge for the government and for the nation moving forward. 20,000 jobs are going to be required to realise the AUKUS capability into the future. And that's why the new government is investing in 20,000 funded university places, in fee-free TAFE in areas where we have skill shortages. We're establishing a skills and training academy associated with AUKUS in South Australia to ensure that we're training the nuclear engineers, the nuclear physicists, the AI specialists, the software engineers of the future. But we also need to do a better job in the Defence Force of making sure that we're attracting younger talent into the Defence Force, and the way that we do that. The traditional Defence Force recruitment, and you've all seen the ads, is based on someone in a combat uniform on a ship or in a plane. We need to think about how we pitch a career in defence to a young kid that's interested in computer coding, and demonstrate to that kid the pathway for a career in the Defence Force and the exciting work, the cutting-edge work that they can be involved in into the future. Associated with that, with the private sector, is ensuring that we get security and vetting right. And that's something that I know has been a frustration from the industry in the past. And unfortunately, I think we've had too long of a wasted decade over the past 10 years to get this right. We've gone to a new system, it hasn't worked well, and I've instructed Defence to put in place as quickly as possible a remediation strategy to get those issues fixed. And we're starting now to see some of the platform problems that have existed being fixed, and over time that backlog that's been there for some time will start to fall. Integrity and security of defence assets and platforms is also vitally important moving into the future. And I know Claire O'Neill is going to talk to you about the broader cyber strategy of the government. But earlier this year, I was fortunate to release the Defence ICT strategy and the Defence Cyber Security strategy. Defence has one of the largest vulnerabilities in our nation when it comes to ICT and cyber security, by virtue of the fact that we have platforms in 20 countries, that we operate about 1,000 networks, and that we have 320,000 devices and endpoints. And that cyber security strategy is there to ensure that Defence has the capability and the ingenuity to ensure that we can empower faster, better decisions in the modern battle space, but also to produce a secure, resilient and survivable ICT network with a skilled workforce and strong ICT partnerships with defence industry. The other area that I'm working on at the moment is ensuring that the defence legislative framework remains fit for purpose. And the government has announced a review of the Defence Act. And we're calling on submissions from the Australian people and including defence industry until the 21st of April about that Defence Review Act, and we've published a discussion paper. Basically, the Defence Act was written in the early 1900s. It's not fit for purpose in that it assumes a binary state of affairs. The nation is either at conflict or it's not. Increasingly, as you know, we're seeing warfare and vulnerabilities in the cyber domains, in grey zone activities, and if we are going to make these multi-billion-dollar investments in defence capability, we need to ensure that we have the legislative backing to protect them and to advance them, and that we can compete in grey zone areas where we may not have had legislative backing in the past. And that is what that review is all about, and we welcome the input of industry and the Australian people. The final area I wanted to discuss is something that I have responsibility for with Defence Estate, and that is renewable energy. Defence is the largest landowner in the country, with close to 70 bases. But when you visit many of those bases, you don't see too many solar panels on the diverse roof spaces that you have or in the land that surrounds defence bases. And we're interested in ensuring that we're leveraging those opportunities, because at the end of the day, with the largest estate of any holder in the nation comes one of the largest energy bills of any Commonwealth department. And if we can invest in renewable energy to reduce some of those energy costs, it's more money that we can consider investing in capability into the future. And a couple of weeks ago, I was in Darwin to launch a solar farm at the barracks up there in Darwin, and we ensured that, that the 27,000 solar panels that have been built adjacent to the base and the battery technology that goes with it, that will provide 40% of the base's power and sell into the domestic grid. That's a project that's been delivered by a partnership between defence industry and the Australian Defence Force. And we're rolling more of these models out throughout the country to ensure that defence remains resilient when it comes to its energy needs into the future. So there's some of the activities that the government is undertaking on your behalf to ensure that we're advancing in this innovation and ingenuity space. But again, I reiterate the point that we're about to enter into one of the largest capability and sustainment exercises the nation has ever seen. Government cannot achieve this on its own. We will need to partner with defence industry to achieve the outcomes that we desire through AUKUS and through the Defence Strategic Review and that alignment of capability. And that's why the input of defence industry and people like yourselves is going to be so vitally important, and that's why we welcome this conference today and the outcomes. Thank you for having me.